Look at the pyramids, these colossal structures. The Great Pyramid of Giza, the Sphinx, they are the ultimate symbols of ancient power. They are so monumental, so impossibly precise, that for millennia, people have struggled to grasp the scale of their creation. The question isn't how they built them. The question is who built them. The popular narrative, the one ingrained in Hollywood movies, school textbooks, and popular culture, is simple and brutal. Slaves. Generations of them, whipped and driven, dying in the scorching desert sun. This image, the image of thousands of oppressed workers dragging stones, is the single most enduring lie about ancient Egypt. Today, we are going to dismantle that myth. We're going on a journey into the hidden desert settlements, the bakeries, and the cemeteries of Giza to uncover the overwhelming archaeological evidence. We will reveal the truth. The men and women who built the Great Pyramid were not slaves. They were a vast, highly skilled, and surprisingly respected Egyptian labor force. To understand the truth, we must first trace the lie. The idea that slaves built the pyramids didn't originate with the Egyptians themselves. It was an idea born centuries later, far from the Nile. Our first culprit is the father of history, the Greek writer Herodotus. Visiting Egypt 2,000 years after the Great Pyramid was finished, Herodotus wrote that the laborers were exploited and treated poorly. Later Roman writers, seeking to make Egyptian history fit their own slave-driven economy, embellished this narrative. But the myth truly solidified with the Jewish historian Josephus in the 1st century AD. He popularized the notion that the Israelites, enslaved by the pharaohs, were forced into this colossal construction project. This story gained traction and was reinforced by religious texts and traditions for centuries. And then came Hollywood. Blockbusters like The Ten Commandments, 1956, cemented the iconic, yet historically inaccurate, image of thousands of emaciated slaves toiling under the brutal sun. This powerful visual became the dominant historical fact in the public imagination, drowning out the actual archaeological evidence. The truth began to emerge not from ancient scrolls, but from shovels and brushes in the sands near the pyramids themselves. Since the 1990s, led by dedicated Egyptologists like Dr. Mark Lehner and Dr. Zahi Hawass, archaeologists have uncovered the actual homes and cemeteries of the builders. This site, known as the Lost City of the Pyramid Builders, or Hayat el-Ghurab, is one of the most important discoveries in Egyptian history. This was not a slave camp. It was a well-organized, massive construction city, capable of housing over 20,000 workers at its peak. The layout reveals sophisticated planning, bakeries and kitchens large enough to feed thousands of workers daily. Analysis of the animal bones found at the site showed that the builders were fed high-quality meat, beef, goat, and sheep, on a scale that would have been unimaginable for enslaved people. Estimates suggest the daily provisions included up to 4,000 pounds of meat every single day. These weren't the meager scraps of a slave diet. This was a diet fit for an elite, valued workforce. The evidence was irrefutable. The pharaoh wasn't driving slaves, he was hosting a massive, highly efficient national project. The most damning evidence against the slavery myth comes from the builder's cemetery, located near the pyramid itself. In ancient Egypt, where you were buried was everything. Slaves were typically dumped in anonymous graves with no ceremony. The builders' tombs, however, were placed in the shadow of the pharaoh's monument, a highly honored location. The tombs contained personal belongings, food offerings, and most importantly, inscriptions revealing their names, titles, and sometimes even prayers for the afterlife. Analysis of the skeletal remains tells an even more compelling story. Injuries sustained by the workers, broken bones, amputated limbs, severe spinal compression show the danger of the work. But the bodies showed signs of advanced medical care. Fractures were properly set and healed. Limbs were surgically removed. This level of care was expensive and rare, reserved for valuable assets, not disposable slaves. The inscriptions, too, spoke volumes. Titles like Overseer of the Western Side and Friend of the Great Pyramid indicate a skilled hierarchical organization. These were not nameless foreign captives. They were Egyptians, men and women who proudly devoted their lives to building a monument for their god-king. The evidence from the grave is conclusive. Free men built the pyramids. So if they weren't slaves, who were they? They were an organized, semi-professional labor force composed primarily of two groups: skilled artisans and seasonal farmers. The core crew, the stonemasons, architects, metal workers, and overseers, were full-time professionals, highly paid and highly respected. They managed the work year-round. The bulk of the manpower came from the farmers. For 3 to 4 months every year, the Nile River would flood, making farming impossible. During this time, the pharaohs essentially mobilized the entire country into a national public works project. This was a civic duty, a form of tax payment to the state. Instead of paying taxes in grain, farmers paid in labor. They received housing, high-quality food, their wages in kind, and their families were cared for while they worked. This system was brilliantly efficient. It kept the vast population productive during the downtime of the agricultural cycle and fueled a colossal spiritual and national endeavor. The pyramids were not just monuments. They were an expression of national unity and faith in the pharaoh, who was considered a living god. To participate in building his eternal resting place was not slavery. It was an honor. It was the ultimate act of devotion, ensuring the pharaoh's successful transition to the afterlife, which in turn guaranteed the continued prosperity of Egypt. The legacy of Hollywood's lie has long obscured a far more profound truth. The Great Pyramid of Giza stands today not as a monument to tyranny, but as a monument to the extraordinary organizational genius and national pride of the Egyptian people. The real story is not one of suffering, but of ingenuity, skill, and collaboration. It is a story of free men building their nation's history. Do you still believe the textbooks, or does the archaeological evidence change your mind? What other historical myth do you think needs to be exposed? Tell us in the comments below. If you love discovering the real truth behind history's greatest myths, make sure you're subscribed to Global History Tales for our next Untold story.